So, the Browns thought things couldn't possibly get worse after benching Shedeur Sanders? Oh honey, welcome to Act 3. Because now, the rookie quarterback they wouldn't even let start just got slapped with a $90 million offer from a rival team. That's not a contract. That's a siren, a grenade, a full-blown declaration of war. And Cleveland? They're not just scrambling. They're in full-blown panic mode.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Because while Jimmy Haslam and Kevin Stefanski were busy playing gatekeepers, another NFL franchise looked at Shedeur, benched and disrespected, and said, "We see you. We believe in you. And here's the bag to prove it." Let's just break this down for a second. $90 million. That's generational wealth. That's multiple Lumbos, a private jet, and a lifetime supply of receipts to pull when people say, maybe you should have waited your turn. But this offer wasn't just about money. It came with endorsements, control over his personal brand, and even allegedly, a say in coaching decisions. You heard that right. They're not just offering Shedeur a starting job. They're offering him a seat at the damn table. Meanwhile, in Cleveland, the man can't even get a headset that works on game day. And now the Browns, the same franchise that sidelined their biggest draw, are watching their golden ticket get waved around by other teams like a shiny trophy. Teams that actually want to win. Teams that understand what it means to have a franchise quarterback in the building and not locked in the basement. Let's call this what it is, a hostile takeover. One that's coming for Cleveland's future, fan base, financial stability, and whatever credibility the front office had left. And the worst part? They brought this on themselves. You don't take a quarterback with Shedeur Sanders' talent, swagger, and off-the-charts upside and bench him. Not unless you want half your locker room looking at you like you're actively trying to lose. And let's be real, this was never just about football. This was about power, about control, about a franchise so desperate to contain greatness that they forgot you can't put a lid on a wildfire. And now that wildfire? It's being fanned by teams like the Cowboys, the Dolphins, the Jets, who are circling like sharks with endorsement deals and jersey designs already sketched out. There are executives right now clearing cap space, whispering to agents, and preparing pitches so slick they'll make movie studio execs jealous. Meanwhile, Jimmy Haslam is stuck playing damage control with a team that's spiraling into full-blown rebellion. You've got players, veterans, openly questioning the leadership in interviews. You've got rookies reposting Shedeur's highlights from practice on Instagram with captions like, "They know." And the fans? They're completely unhinged. Season ticket holders are burning merchandise in protest. Local radio is doing hourly countdowns to the deadline. Cleveland's own sports media is publishing open letters with subject lines like, "Let him leave. He deserves better." And Shedeur? Silent, focused, deadly. No interviews, no tweets, no notes, app apologies. Just calm, quiet meetings with his camp behind closed doors while the entire city burns. That's how you know he's in control now. That's how you know this just turned from a controversy into a power shift. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just a benched quarterback anymore. He's a symbol, a lightning rod for everything the Browns refuse to become. And the league is watching, hard, because this isn't just Cleveland's mess anymore. This is a blueprint. This is the new NFL, where players bet on themselves and win. Where rookies don't wait 3 years to get a shot, they demand it. Where power doesn't sit in the owner's box. It walks in wearing custom cleats, and it knows its worth. So let's talk implications. If Shedeur accepts this offer and walks, the Browns don't just lose a quarterback, they lose everything. They lose credibility with future draftees. They lose the fan base they barely had holding on. They lose sponsors, ticket sales, and that rare feeling Clevelanders had for the first time in forever. Hope. And it's not just about what's happening inside the building. It's about what's happening across the league. Because you better believe every GM in the NFL just added a new item to their playbook. Respect the star or regret it. Shedeur's potential departure could trigger a shift in how rookie deals are negotiated, how much voice players get in team structure, and how franchises evaluate not just talent, but treatment. This isn't just sports anymore. This is leverage. And right now, Cleveland's is slipping through their fingers. Let's not forget, this could have all been avoided. All they had to do was start him. Let the man play. See what he can do. Give the fans something to believe in. But no. Instead, the Browns tried to play 4D chess with a player who was already playing a completely different game. And now they're caught between two impossible options. 1. Let him leave and instantly become the cautionary tale for every franchise in the league. Or 2. Beg him to stay and publicly admit that they fumbled the bag on national television. Either way, they lose. And let's be honest, he might stay. He might give them one last shot to fix this. But if he does, it won't be out of loyalty. It'll be leverage. And the price? It just went up. That $90 million offer? That's the new bar. That's the new what he's worth. And the Browns? If they want him to stay, they better match it. Not just with money, but with control. With change. With actual power. No more sideline shots. No more fake press releases about quarterback development. No more weak excuses about the system. Shedeur doesn't fit the system. He is the system. And if Cleveland can't see that, someone else will. So let's ask the real question. What happens now? Does Haslam swallow his pride and hand over the keys to the franchise? Does Stefanski survive the week if he refuses to adapt? Do the fans rally or completely walk? Because we are officially in the eye of the storm. And if they fumble this any harder than they already have, they might not just lose Shedeur Sanders. They might lose Cleveland. So what would you do if you were in the Browns' shoes? Would you cash him out and give him control? Or let him go and risk becoming the team that traded away the future for the comfort of control? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit subscribe, and stay locked in. Because if Shedeur signs that $90 million deal, this won't just be a chapter in NFL history. It'll be a new era. And the Browns? They'll just be the cautionary tale we tell rookies during draft night for the next decade. Don't end up like Cleveland. If you thought the $90 million offer was the explosion, you haven't seen the aftershocks. This isn't just a scandal anymore. This is an existential threat to the Browns, to their identity, to their already fragile grip on relevance. Let's zoom out for a second. The Cleveland Browns are now staring down the barrel of a future without Shedeur Sanders, and it's a future no one in their right mind would want. Think about it. This isn't just a quarterback. This is the quarterback. The one player with the potential to pull this team out of its decades-long identity crisis and into the modern NFL spotlight. And yet, he's halfway out the door. And who's holding it open? The entire league. The Dolphins are whispering promises of speed and sunshine. The Raiders are dangling Vegas lights and a fan base desperate for a new face. The Jets? They're ready to turn him into the centerpiece of the biggest media market in football. And what's Cleveland offering? Wait your turn. Again, you don't say that to a kid who walked away from the Ravens to bet on you. You don't say that to a guy whose jersey sales spiked before he even played a snap. You don't bench a player who's a walking culture shift. But here we are. And now, the Browns are scrambling in full-blown crisis control. You've got emergency meetings happening behind closed doors. PR teams issuing statements like, "We remain committed to Shedeur's development," a phrase so hollow it echoes. Meanwhile, Shedeur's team is playing chess while Cleveland's still learning checkers. They've gone radio silent, and that silence? It's deafening. Every day without a denial, every hour without a counteroffer, every breath without clarity. It's turning up the heat. Because now it's not just a rumor. It's a threat. A warning shot fired across the bow of the entire Browns organization. You know who else hears it? The players. Because this locker room isn't stupid. They see what's happening. They see the tension. They see their quarterback getting jerked around while suits upstairs pretend like everything's fine. And let me tell you, morale is rotting from the inside out. Veterans are tired. Rookies are frustrated. Team leaders are caught in the middle, trying to hold the culture together with duct tape and trust the process, speeches no one's buying anymore. The locker room split isn't just theoretical, it's real. There are guys in that building openly siding with Shedeur, sharing cryptic posts, eyeing coaches sideways, whispering to agents. They're watching, waiting, calculating their own futures, because if the Browns can do this to him, what's stopping them from doing it to anyone? It's a civil war. Quiet now. But it's creeping. And Kevin Stefanski? He's got one foot in a press conference and one foot on a trapdoor. Because if this all goes sideways, if Shedeur leaves and becomes a star somewhere else, do you really think the Haslams are going to take the fall? Please. Stefanski will be the sacrifice, the scapegoat. We needed a fresh start, quote buried at the bottom of a statement nobody reads all the way through. And what's wild is, he had options. Stefanski could have pivoted, could have walked back the decision to bench Shedeur, could have framed it as a reevaluation or a change in direction. Fans would have eaten up. The locker room would have exhaled. The media would have spun it as redemption. But instead, he doubled down. And now, he might be coaching on borrowed time. Because here's what's coming, whether they admit it or not. A franchise-altering choice. Either you do whatever it takes to keep Shedeur Sanders, every dollar, every endorsement, every ounce of creative control he asks for. Or you watch your future walk away in slow motion, while your fanbase burns jerseys in the parking lot. And don't underestimate what's at stake. This isn't just about football. This is cultural currency. This is economic survival. Shedeur isn't just a quarterback. He's a movement. He's box office. He's jersey sales, sponsorships, primetime slots, and actual hope for a fan base that's been running on fumes since 1999. You lose him, you lose it all. The stadium empties. The fans disengage. The city, already skeptical of Haslam's commitment, goes full mutiny. Sponsors pull back. The brand collapses inward. And suddenly, you're not just a bad football team. You're a dead franchise walking. All because you couldn't recognize value when it was literally wearing your uniform. And don't even get me started on what happens if Shedeur goes to a team like the Cowboys or the Jets and immediately starts lighting up the league. You want to talk about receipts? The internet has hours of footage, of hot takes, of analysts screaming, "Start him. Play him." Every touchdown he throws will be another slap across Cleveland's face. Every win, another headline they could have had. And every MVP vote? Well, you know the rest. So now we wait. Ticking clock. Rising pressure. No clarity. And the question becomes, what is Jimmy Haslam willing to do to save face? Because this isn't about pride anymore. This is about survival. Is he willing to fire Stefanski? Restructure the offense? Blow up the coaching staff? Tear down everything and rebuild it around the one player who actually brings people hope? He better be, because the clock is running out. Fast. And Shedeur? He's not bluffing. He's not emotional. He's not reactive. He's calculated. You think Coach Prime raised a fool? Please. Shedeur and his camp are already planning the next 5 steps. They've seen this play out. They knew there'd be resistance. That's why this offer didn't come as a surprise. It came as leverage. And now it's Cleveland's move. They can either swallow their ego and rebuild this franchise around the one piece that could actually save it, or they can go down in flames. Again, only this time, it won't be a tragedy. It'll be a choice. The Browns are dangling at the edge of a cliff, holding onto a fraying rope called Shedeur Sanders, and somehow, they're still sawing through it themselves. This isn't a quarterback controversy anymore. This is a full-blown franchise identity crisis. A generational talent has been offered $90 million with perks, power, and purpose to leave a team that didn't even have the common sense to start him. And now, Cleveland is standing in a pile of its own mistakes, shocked that the kid they tried to cage might actually fly away. Let's paint this picture clearly. You had the guy. You had the guy. The future of your franchise. The heartbeat of your fan base. The most talked about rookie in the league. And you decided to bench him. You thought you had time. You thought he'd wait. Spoiler, he won't. Because Shedeur isn't built like that. He's not some project you keep in the garage until the check engine light goes off. He's a Lamborghini revving at the starting line, and while Cleveland's fiddling with the radio, the rest of the league is waving a checkered flag. Let's be honest, the $90 million offer wasn't just a contract. It was a wake-up call, a jarring, humiliating slap in the face to every executive in that front office. Because while they were busy micromanaging his reps and arguing over scheme fit, other franchises were designing kingdoms for him. We're talking private equity meetings, brand-building deals, post-career planning, influence over coaching, control of his own narrative. You think this is just about football? No. This is the future of the NFL. The game has changed. We are living in the player empowerment era. And Shedeur Sanders is not just walking through that door. He's breaking it off the hinges. He's the prototype of a new kind of quarterback. Not just skilled, not just marketable, but strategic. His silence isn't submission, it's leverage. His patience isn't compliance, it's timing. And now, Cleveland has to decide. Are you ready to operate in his world? Or are you content dying in yours? Let's talk about what happens if he leaves. Because let's not pretend this just disappears quietly. If Shedeur accepts that offer, Cleveland becomes the NFL's most iconic what-if in modern history. Every network will run it. Every documentary will cover it. Every sports writer with a keyboard will write the obituary of the franchise formerly known as the Browns. The collapse won't be slow. It'll be instant. Sponsors will bail. Fans will flip. National media will descend like vultures at a buffet. The dog pound? That'll be a crater. Shedeur's exit will be the moment Cleveland officially cements itself, not as cursed, not as underdog, but as organizationally hopeless. Because let's be real, how many times can a fan base believe? How many quarterbacks can you break before people stop watching altogether? It's not just about one season anymore. It's about reputation. And Cleveland's? It's clinging to life support. You let this man walk, and you'll have to spend the next decade explaining it. To your fans, to your future draftees, to your grandchildren. Well, see, we had Shedeur Sanders. We just didn't play him. Then he left, won MVP, and we fired everyone. Then we rebuilt. Again. Sound familiar? It should. It's been Cleveland's script since the 2000s. But this time it ends with the one guy who actually could have changed everything, taking his talents to a city that treated him like a star instead of a rookie in turn. And don't for a second think the NFL isn't watching this. Oh, they're watching closely. Owners, GMs, coaches, agents, players. They're all seeing what happens when a team benches a Ferrari and acts surprised when someone else drives off with it. Because this is bigger than Cleveland. This is a test case. How do you handle a modern-day star? How do you build around talent instead of taming it? How do you survive when your player knows his worth better than you do? And right now, Cleveland's failing the test. Hard. Let's go back to the beginning for a second. Draft day. Shedeur drops further than expected. Baltimore calls. He says no, doesn't want to sit behind Lamar Jackson. He chooses Cleveland. He chooses them. And how do they repay him? With silence. With caution. With hesitation dressed up as strategy. He gave you his faith, and you gave him a clipboard. Now someone else is giving him a kingdom. And the Haslams? They're sitting in luxury boxes, writing press releases, and pretending they can fix this with a PR tour. Newsflash. You can't PR your way out of betrayal. The only thing that will fix this, if it's even fixable, is action. Immediate. Unapologetic. Dramatic. You fire people. You offer him control. You give him the reins. You stop protecting mediocrity like it's tradition. Because if you don't, you might as well change your name back to the Cleveland expansion franchise. Because no one's going to believe you're a real NFL team after this. And let's not forget what Shedeur leaving does to the rest of the league. It shifts the power dynamic instantly. The team that lands him, they don't just get a quarterback, they get a movement. They become the face of modern franchise building. They get the media, the fans, the primetime slots, and the energy. And Cleveland? They get haunted. Forever. You think it was bad when you let OBJ walk? When you couldn't keep Baker afloat? Those were side quests compared to this. This is the final boss. And right now, you're bringing a playbook to a sword fight. So what's the move? You've got days, maybe hours, to fix this. Not with words. With real, uncomfortable, paradigm-shifting change. You pay him. You start him. You build around him. You listen to him. You let him lead. Or you let him leave and become the most iconic draft mistake in NFL history. It's that simple. So I'll ask you, Browns fans, do you trust your ownership to save this? Do you think they understand what's at stake? Or are you already bracing for the headlines? Shedeur Sanders traded to Dallas in historic deal. Jets announce Sanders as new franchise QB. Browns spiral after losing star rookie. It's coming. Unless something changes now. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Would you stay if you were Shedeur? Is there any way back from this? And if you were Jimmy Haslam, what would your next move be? Because if this saga ends with Shedeur leaving, Cleveland won't just lose its quarterback. It'll lose its soul. Because here's the part no one's saying out loud, but you can feel it creeping in from the edges like fog on a horror movie set. What if Shedeur already made up his mind? What if all the meetings, all the silence, all the slow, methodical power plays have just been him giving Cleveland a chance, not because he owes them one, but because he wanted to believe they'd figure it out? Think about that. Think about Shedeur Sanders, the guy who had the entire football world wrapped around his throwing arm, actually choosing to go to Cleveland. Not for clout, not for comfort, but because he thought he could change something. He gave this franchise a shot at redemption. And instead of rising to the moment, they buried it under excuses and press conference jargon. They treated a revolution like a routine. They had lightning in a bottle, and they spent all season trying to tighten the lid. Now, it might be too late, because the $90 million offer didn't come out of nowhere. That doesn't just happen. That's the result of weeks, maybe months, of whispered calls, quiet meetings, big-time offers floated over sleek dinner tables by execs who see what Cleveland can't. That Shedeur Sanders isn't just a quarterback. He's a system reset. And now that he's been offered the keys to a kingdom, a real shot at being a franchise face with power, money, and respect, the Browns are realizing, way too late, that he was never going to beg them for it. He was going to let them choose. And they didn't. Now they're stuck in purgatory. A team spiraling. A locker room fractured. A city furious. And a generational talent standing at the edge of the exit. One phone call away from becoming someone else's legend. And if that happens, if Shedeur leaves and becomes exactly who we all know he is, Cleveland won't just be embarrassed. They'll be remembered. Not as unlucky, not as underdogs, but as the franchise that looked greatness in the face and said, maybe next year. So what happens next? Simple. The Browns either make the boldest play in franchise history and hand him the wheel, or they get ready to spend the next decade watching Shedeur Sanders carve up defenses on someone else's field, in someone else's jersey, writing a legacy that could have, should have been theirs. Tick-tock, Cleveland. This is your final warning.